Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to this module of fog computing. Today, I'll be talking about some issues that are faced while using the fog networks or while we deal with the fogging. Some of the issues which are faced in a real scenario. So, we'll be talking about them in detail. Going back slightly back, I know that we know that fogging network is basically coined by the Cisco, and it is basically a decentralized computing structure that actually points towards the cloud computing to the edge of an enterprise's network. Now the resource they get placed in a what you call as logical location somewhere in between data source and the cloud. मतलब fog layer is basically slightly closer to the what you call as sensing layer or sensors, and somewhere in between cloud and sensor. Or we can also say that fog computing involves bringing the intelligence and processing and the required operations quite close to the sensing layer. Now, as we are witnessing the exponential increase in number of connected devices across world, are we all are aware that they are increasing exponentially. So there is a there is a need, war level kind of a need for formation of proper fog computing layer, which has to be placed between cloud and the sensing layer. Otherwise, the whatever however scenario we may add to it, this cloud would not be able, after a certain point of time, cloud will not be able to cater the requirement. So coming back to the fog layer, we as we have discussed till now, we are very much aware of the fact that these are my sensor layer, and let's say these are my gateway devices, let's say these are my edge devices. So this is my sensing layer. This all together can be a part of sensing layer. These are my sensors, these are my what you call as gateways, and these are my edge devices. These are my edge devices, and they are responsible for transmitting data over to the what we call as cloud. It is suggested the smaller cloud like servers, are placed in between, and this is called as fog layer. So in this lecture we are supposed to talk about the issues that are faced by this fog layer. Now सबसे पहले कि अगर बात करें then authentication and trust, we spent last complete lecture on talking about authentication and trust. Authentication is like one of the most concerning issue in any computing resources, especially in a fog computing, since these services are offered at a very large scale. And in coming times, lot of fog devices are projected to be there, which will be talking to the devices of your devices and devices without actually much of your intervention to that. So these fog service providers can be different parties. Now fog services can be provided, obviously Amazon is a world leader in cloud services, so definitely Amazon will start providing, although it has been proposed by Cisco, but they may propose that Amazon starts providing fog services. Then as fog is closer to the sensing layer, then a lot of internet service providers are here, which will also start providing the services of fog layer to the end user. Now this kind of flexibility and this kind of actually the open structure, this anyone, it can be what you call as this services can be provided by Amazon or your ISP or some local cable operator kind of a guy who provides you the cable internet. They can provide you the flag layer. This flexibility actually complicates the whole situation. Getting my point? Any of the rogue fog node is a fog device which can pretend itself to be a what you call as legal node and associate with the end user, and once it gets connected, it can manipulate n number of things. It can damage the signals coming in, it can steal the data, it can do a number of things which which what you call as false node or a malicious node can do. So this authentication and trust is of most concern, and this is majorly because of the open structure. Because of the open structure, this is basically because of the open structure. If we talk about what you call as if we talk about something like let's talk about internet, then the security protocols are at the next level. For internet of things, the security protocols are at the next level. But as we all have spent now at least an year talking about the fact that security protocols, authentication procedures, and all for internet of things has to travel a lot, and fog is relatively a very newer concept if we compare it with the internet of things also. So authentication and trust, whenever we talk about deploying the flow, authentication and trust, it plays a very major role. Then obviously privacy and security, it again is a concern. Now when we talk of fog computing, we talk of many networks, many networks which are communicating with the fog servers, Now as this this IoT fog scenario is based on a wireless communication, network privacy and security, network what you call as network privacy and security, network privacy and security are always a concern. Now there are so many edge devices, there are so many IoT devices. Depending upon, then the fog nodes also are unaccountable. Each of the end user, each of the entity is basically accessible to them. They can connect to any of the end device belonging to any of the what you call as any of the user. This makes this entire scenario, and this make the end users personal identity and privacy matters crowd confidential. This has this leads to the security protocols to be strengthened and all. Now as we all are aware, many millions of devices, they are connected to the fog nodes at different levels via different gateways, via different edge devices. Now each and every device has a different IP. Every device has a different IP. Now suppose someone like Anshul, he fakes the IP address, or Pranshu can gain the access of your personal network which is stored in your particular node, and this raises a huge security threat. These that is why there is a strong need of identity management. That is why there is a strong need of identity management, which is yet to be addressed in this what you call as fog scenario. Then we talk about the fog servers. Now fog server is something which is placed to a sensing layer. Now the placement of the fog server, let's say if we take about if we take a scenario of Uttarakhand, if we say take a scenario of Uttarakhand, there is a district Almora where is fire scenario is there. Then here we are Dehradun, a lot of sensing is being there because there is a lot of smart devices and a lot of crucial services like IMA, FRI, they all are here. So, and we know that latency is one of the very important aspect of fog computing. Latency is one of the very important aspect of the fog computing. Then if we talk about Udham Singh Nagar, then it is basically a huge Udham Singh Nagar as well as Hardwar Sidkul, they are, as well as somewhere Haridwar Sidkul. This, let's say, is the Dehradun. This is your Almora forest fire prone region. Haridwar Sidkul, that's also in industrial zone. A lot of sensors are there. Then we talk about uphills, like what you call as landslides, and your what you call as badal fatne wala scenario. It is prone to that. Now, it is fog is not something कि आप हर थोड़ी थोड़ी दूर पे लगा दोगे. So you need to place the fog servers. You need to place the fog servers very intelligently and very effectively, so that minimum communication bandwidth is utilized to transmit and retrieve effective data. Latency for the crucial services should be what you call as taken care of. It should be initially nosed, may it be Amazon or whoever. They should actually first analyze and do a proper survey of the requirements and demands before placing the fog nodes. Because if suppose industrial areas are in Udham Singh Nagar and Haridwar, and we place a fog node somewhere in Almora, and then maybe forest fire kind of a scenario takes place in twice a month. One is prominent in peak summer hours, but industrial areas data, they are produced regularly, but the emergency data again is produced in Uttarakhand. So they have to find a optimal solution which may balance all these requirements and place a fog node. So placing a fog server is again a very important issue. Now energy consumption always has been the topic of our discussion. I would not like to go in details of this. It is number of fog nodes are so much there, and we know that energy plays a crucial role. So only actually relative data should be transmitted for computation at the fog node and storage, so as to save the energy, because energy is the thing which actually plays a very important role in what you call as this scenario, WS and this IoT scenario. It plays a very, very important role. Then there will be n number of another thing. Now we know that there are millions of heterogeneous devices. They are even what you call as, there are sensors connected, there are mobile phone connected, there are laptops connected, and there are other n number of variables. There is a laptop, then there are n type of variables connected to the network, and somehow these networks are basically connected to the edge devices. Via edge devices they are connected to the fog devices. It is entirely a heterogeneous network. All these things have different power levels, processing capacities and storing capacity. They all might not, it is not possible that all of these might be following same protocol, same routing protocol, same communication protocol. Some of the sensors might be small enough to communicate directly with the internet. They may not be compatible with TCP IP, but in IoT scenario, any device can transmit data to any device and can retrieve data from any device. So all these things should be compatible. They should be able to communicate with each other. So some sort of centralized algorithm should be implemented, which should manage these networks in a very small remote node. Could be talking to a very powerful network. While your sensor node may not be compatible with TCP/IP, then that data has to be transmitted to the edge device. Then it should be ensured that that edge device basically, before transmitting, converts that data, upscale that data, because it is actually sent to the server. So these kind of things are to be taken care of. And then there can be number of issues. delay in computing is again latency, and delay plays a very major role. Delay and this latency plays a very major role. So I guess that's all there can be n number of various issues related to fog computing. I guess that shall be all for this lecture. Kindly Google for more information. There are a lot of good literature available on this topic. Thank you. Thanks for now.